Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about fear of rejection. And avoiding rejection is something that stops so many of us from putting ourselves out there, whether it's sharing your artwork, sharing your music, starting your business, asking for a sale, asking for a promotion, putting yourself out there in your personal life, telling someone how you feel. All of these things can bring up a fear and avoidance of rejection. And it can stop so many of us from going after the things that we want in life. So today we're going to talk about some strategies for overcoming fear of rejection. So if that sounds like something you need, hang out. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sarah. I'm a certified life and business coach, and I help heart-centered service providers, spiritual practitioners, and creatives build the lives and businesses of their dreams. If you're new here, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you're returning, welcome back. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure that you do it. All right, so fear of rejection. I first want to talk a little bit about what I think it really is. And I want to kind of clarify it because we're not just afraid of people saying no. There are probably a lot of areas in our lives where people can say no to things and it doesn't bother us. So if I have somebody hanging out at my house and I say, "Do you want a cup of tea?" and they say, "No, thanks," I'm not upset. I don't feel rejected. I don't take it personally. But if it's like, I shared something I wrote with a friend and they didn't text me back quickly to say that they liked it, then I might have fear of like, oh my God, they didn't like it, or oh my gosh, like they're not going to talk to me anymore because they think my writing is weird, right? Like what some story. And that's what's really happening with fear of rejection. We're not really afraid of people saying no to us most of the time in every context. We're afraid of it. We avoid it in specific contexts. And it's usually because we've hung a lot of a lot of importance, and a lot of meaning on this specific context. And then what we're really afraid of is pain. And the pain is not caused by necessarily the person saying no or us not getting the thing we want. The pain is caused by the story we're telling ourselves about what that no means about us and our talent and who we are in the world. So if you already have a pre existing insecurity that says, the people I'm attracted to aren't attracted to me. And every time I put myself out there, I get rejected. Then if you go and you tell someone that you're interested in them and they're like, "Oh, that's so nice, but I'm not available," you can then spin that into a story. "See, I knew it. No one who I like likes me." And you use it to kind of poke at that existing wound, that existing tender spot. And you use it as evidence that you're limiting belief or negative story about yourself in this area must be true, because this is now proof that this story must be true. If you already have a pre existing story that says, maybe I'm not that good of an artist, and maybe I don't deserve to share my artwork, maybe I'm never going to be a professional, maybe I'm just not that good, and you share a piece of your work on social media and you get no likes and no comments, or you submit to a gallery show and you get a very polite rejection letter, and you can make that mean, "See, it's further proof that I'm not that good. I don't deserve to be here. The thing that I want in my life is not possible for me." So the pain that we are experiencing is not necessarily coming from the rejection, the fact of the no. It's coming from the story that we tell ourselves about what this no means. And I think it's really important to get clear on that, because if we get to choose the story we tell ourselves, we can make the story be anything. "Oh, my friend didn't get back to me right away about my writing." I could make up a story that says, "She's really busy right now and it has nothing to do with me. I know she's going through a lot. She's probably dealing with something related to her work. I should just wait a couple days and then I'll check in again. Oh, this person said thank you for asking them out, but they're not available. They're probably married," right? If I get to make up any information I want, why don't I make up a story that is kinder, gentler, or at least neutral and more beneficial to my ability to keep going, rather than making up a story that says, "This event is proof that I don't belong, that I'll never have what I want, and that I'm not good enough," and then using that to inflict pain on myself. Do we understand kind of the difference there? Hopefully this is resonating. Leave a comment if this makes sense. Another thing to consider is that by avoiding putting ourselves in situations where people might say no to us, where we might not get a job, going to an audition and not getting a gig, submitting your work to something that you want to be featured in and getting a rejection letter, applying to colleges and not getting in. By avoiding putting ourselves in these positions, what we're telling ourselves subconsciously is, I am not strong enough to endure the pain that I will experience if I don't get my way. And I want us to just think about that. The message that we're sending to ourselves is, I'm not strong enough. I'm not a strong enough person to hold these circumstances. If I don't get exactly what I want when I want it, I will crumble. I'm not a strong enough person to deal with that. So I will avoid ever being in that position so that I can avoid that discomfort. And I think it's worth sitting down. I know this might seem a little counterintuitive, but writing out the worst case scenario and really go into it. If the worst case scenario in this situation is, I share my work and I don't get into this show, then what will happen? Then what does that mean? Then what will I do next? And walk yourself through picturing the worst case scenario and show yourself, that's not going to be fatal. That's not going to be the end of my life. Nothing terrible is going to happen to me. It doesn't have to mean I quit doing my work. If I apply to my favorite school that I want to go to and I don't get in, that doesn't have to mean I'm never going to get into any school. What will I do instead? What will my plan B? Plan B be? What will my next move be if I don't get the thing I want? But how limiting it is to relate to ourselves as though we are so fragile that if we don't get exactly what we want when we want it, we will crumble and buckle under the pressure of that. Is that the person that we want to be? I know for myself, that's not the person I want to be. I want to be a resilient person. I want to be a tenacious person. I want to be the kind of person who is so determined to get what I want that I can really go after things and keep going and keep knocking on doors until I get my way. I don't want to be the kind of person who just like lays down on the ground and is like, oh, you guys go on without me. I'm just going to die here if I don't get my way immediately. And it's silly when we say it like that, but that's really what we're doing when we are so afraid of hearing no or not getting our way that we will not put ourselves out there. The message we're conveying to ourselves is, I'm too weak to face hearing no. Is that who we want to be? Now, the next thing to consider is that what we do at that juncture is we self reject. I will reject myself and my own work and my own capacity and my own capability and my own opportunities before I will even put myself out there. So even if I want to go after something, even if I want to apply to that thing or shoot my shot with this person, because I'm so afraid of not getting exactly what I want when I want it, I'm going to go ahead and just reject myself right now and veto my application before I even put it in, because I won't give anyone else a chance to reject me. Do we want to live a life where we are self rejecting, where we are constantly telling ourselves, no, I'm not going to give you that opportunity. I'm not going to let you take that shot. I'm vetoing it before it even happens. Is that who and how we want to be? I like looked over there because I was like, what's that noise? It's a cat scratching at the door. So what do we do instead? Thing number one is we get really clear about the stories we're telling ourselves, and we decide that if we're going to be delusional, we might as well be delusional in a kind and gentle way that puts us in a good light, and tell ourselves softer stories. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to decide, I am not such a fragile person that if I don't get exactly what I want when I want it, I'm going to crumble. We're going to decide, I am not going to self-reject. I am going to self-accept and self-promote and self-aggrandize, but in a good way, and be like, I am good. I am valuable. My work is interesting. There is an audience out there for me. There is somebody out there who's going to like me. There is a job out there for me. I just haven't found it yet, but I am going to. And once we've walked ourselves there, the next step is kind of exposure therapy. And I call it gamifying no. It's understanding that yes and acceptance and opportunities are a numbers game. And we're going to have to go through a lot of no's to get our yeses. So In business, I talk all the time about sales conversions and understanding sales conversions. People will come to me and say, well, nobody's buying my offer. And I'll say, well, how many times have you posted it? And they'll be like, 2. And I'm like, right, not enough. And how many people have seen those posts? And they're like, 100, right? And so you're like, well, not, or 17 people have visited my landing page. An average conversion rate into an online program is 2%. So if only 17 people have seen the page, just not enough people have seen it yet for you to get enough yeses to meet your sales goal. And that's really important to consider. You need a certain number of no's to get the number of yeses that you're looking for. So what do? We go out and seek those no's. If I want to get 20 people into a program, that might mean I am purposefully trying to get 1,980 people to say no to me in order to get the number of yeses I'm looking for. That might not have been correct math, but on average, say I need 2,000 people to see this thing in order to get the number of people into it that I want. So I'm looking for a lot of rejection. I'm looking for a lot of people to say no in order to hit those yeses. If you're auditioning as an artist, you already know how many auditions do you have to go to, how many no's before you get those yeses. And so if you're trying to submit yourself to be on podcasts or to write for magazines, how many pitches do you have to send to start getting those yeses? How many shots do you have to shoot until you're getting those net shots? Nothing but net. You can tell I don't play sports. You know what I mean. So what we can do is we can make seeking rejection, seeking no, a game. You can literally make a no spreadsheet and you can track how many rejections am I getting, and you can set a number of rejections you're looking for. So maybe if your goal is to get on podcasts, you can say, my goal is to get turned down by 50 podcasts. And so maybe I'm going to apply to 75 or I'm going to apply to 100. I have a 50-50 shot of getting accepted to be on this podcast. So I'm going to make a list of 100 podcasts and I'm going to apply to all of them. And every time I get a rejection, I'm going to celebrate it and I'm going to put it on this spreadsheet because it is proof that I'm one step closer to the yes. I'm looking for this. I'm seeking it out. I am purposefully putting myself in these experiences because I know that it is inevitable that if I experience enough no's, I will experience some yeses. That's just the way it's going to be. And so by gamifying the process, and rather than being afraid to get no's and afraid to be rejected, we're actively seeking them out and approaching this like a numbers game. We can shift our perspective around this. We don't have to be afraid of no. It's inevitable. It is going to happen. Another thing I like to think about is consent. I love living in a world where everyone's allowed to say no at any time for anything. I want the right to say no at any time for anything. And that has to mean that other people are allowed to have that too. I need my relationship with receiving no to be on par with my relationship to my ability to say no. And so putting myself in a position where it doesn't mean anything about me. You're just allowed to say no to me. And I'm not going to take it personally. And I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to make it mean a bad story about me. I'm not going to get upset with you. I'm not going to make you feel unsafe for saying no to me. Everyone's allowed to say no. And that's just, I don't have to be afraid of it because it's going to happen. It is an inevitable part of life. We don't have to avoid things that are inevitable. We don't have to be afraid of them. We can accept that they are part of the process, that they are part of what's going to happen, and then go about seeking out situations where there's an on and off, a 1, a 0, a yes or a no, and keeping track of all of the no's that we receive as proof that every single one we get means that we're doing the thing. We're shooting the shots. And with every shot we shoot, that's correct, we are building our resilience. We're building our capacity. We're showing ourselves, I am not a fragile, delicate person that people can't say no to without crumbling, because that's not the person I want to be in the world. I am a self-assured, self-confident, self-determined, driven person who knows that I am valuable and that there is an audience for me, that there's somebody out there who's going to like my work. And if that's not you, with all the love in my heart, Vaya con Dios, go with God, have a nice day, goodbye. You're so welcome to look elsewhere. You're so welcome to go find something that is your cup of tea. I want everyone to have the stuff they like, myself included. So if I'm not it for you, all good, bye. On to the next and the next and the next, because I will find those people, I will make those connections. And I know that inside because that's just the nature of this universe that we're living in. So, those are some strategies and some thoughts. I would love to hear if this reframed anything for you, if this gave you some new ways to think about rejection and about people saying no to you. Share your thoughts with me in the show notes. I would love to hear about it. I'm also going to drop the link to join my email list. I drop a lot of really valuable content and shares on my email list, and I would love to see you there. It's a better way for us to stay in touch. So I'm going to put the link to that in the show notes as well. I'd love to hang out with you over there. That's my live for today. Okay, love you. Bye.